Now we're going to look at the second version, the if-else statement. You might wonder what the difference is between the if statement and the if-else statement. They appear very similar. So if if the number was 6, we printed it out, and if it wasn't, we just continued down our program. However, with the if-else statement, you might be wondering why we've got the else part, and that is really if we need to do something else with the second condition. So let me see if I can make some sense out of that with the flow chart. So we need a terminator. In fact, we need 2 terminators, start and end. We're going to set our process as we did before, where number equals 6, and then we're going to have a decision box where we're going to ask if the number is 6. Now, if the number is 6, we're going to take one action. We're going to output it to the screen, so we need the input-output box. If it isn't 6, then we're going to have another process where we're going to make it 6. And then finally we'll get to the terminator. So the difference here is, if you can go through the program that we did, if we set number to 5 and we tested it, it would just drop straight through to the end. It wouldn't print it out to the screen. But this time, if it's going to be 5, we are going to set it to 6 and then go to the end. So when we get to this stage in our program, the value for num is always going to be 6. When we just had the if statement, it just didn't print it out. It would have been 5 at this point. So there is the slight difference between the if and the else. So let's join these together with the arrows. So this is our yes, and this is our no. And remember, on these decision boxes, we don't have a third option. You cannot just join it to the end. And what I'm going to do is take from the process to the terminator, and the same thing from the data. Whoops, moving it rather than choosing it. Get a line again. There we go. That is also going to go to the end, and let's see if I can join those lines together. So there we go. That is now the if and the else statement. So let's just start putting our code in. Set num equal to 6 is num 6, put a question mark on the end. If it is, then we're going to output num. If it isn't, we're going to set num to 6. Same as that one. In fact, let's change that equal sign there to a 2 so they match. And finally, once we've done our processing, we just end. And as I've said before, at this point num is always going to be 6. So if I change it here, it's going to get set to 6 here. So that is my flowchart. It's getting a little wide and a little large. Let's see if I can move it over so that we can see what happens in our pseudocode. So we've got the same num equals 6 with the process box. We've got the same test. If num is equal to 6, then print the num. If it isn't, then we need another line of code with else and indent and set num equal to 6. So this line of code is only going to be run if num isn't 6. And then we've got our end if exactly as before. So if we hop over to the Python, we can change that. So if I put that back to num equals 6, if num equals 6, the colon means then we're going to print the num. We need to go back to the start. Remember, indentation is important to Python, which is why we are writing indentations in everything we do, so that we get used to it and we're used to Python. So I can have my else statement, which is a keyword, but I need to put a colon at the end. Notice I did not have a colon at the end of my else statement there. So it automatically indents, and what I've got to do is say num equals 6, and that's it. There is no end if in Python. So if I save that and run it, okay, there we go, it prints 6. If I change num to 5 to begin with and run my program, well, actually num is going to be set to 6, but we're not going to see that. It's just going to print a blank screen. If we want to see it, we really are going to have another statement afterwards. So this is a test. So I print num just to make sure that this line of code is being executed. So if I run this, there we go, and it prints 6. Now it's printed 6 because num was 5 there. It checked this line. If num was 6, it wasn't, so it skipped to the else clause, where it set num to 6 and then it printed num out. If you're not convinced by that, then just change the value in the else clause to 7 and we should get 7 printed out there. So if I run it again, there we go, it prints 7 because num was set to 5. If I set num back to 6 at the beginning, it's only going to print this first line here. There we go, and we've got 6, and it prints num twice because it's checked that, printed the num out, and then skipped down to this line and printed it out a second time. So that's how the if and else works in Python and through the design process. As you can see, the design's a little bigger. It's getting more complicated now. And the pseudocode is sort of matching the Python still, but will match other languages even more.